Welcome to the Lost Legacies podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam. Just a quick disclaimer for you guys. So we pre-record pretty much all of our episodes, which means that the first 5 episodes of this podcast, we were actually working under a different title called Rewatch. We have now settled on a new name, which is Lost Legacies. So if you hear us talking about anything involving Rewatch or anything like that, that is no longer going to be the title that we're working under, and we are strictly from now until the end of time, the Lost Legacies.
Yeah, and that's much more on brand for the show Lost, and it's also vague enough that we can kind of talk about other stuff and anything else we want every now and then. So, without further ado, we present Lost Legacies. Breathe in all those sinuses. The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Betty Bopper bought some butter, but the butter, it was bitter. If she put it in her batter, it would make her batter bitter. But a bit of better butter would make her batter better. So she bought of bitter butter, better than the bitter butter. And she put it in her batter, and her batter was not bitter. So 'twas better that Betty Bopper bought a bit of better butter.
Damn. I don't even...
I kind of messed that one up.
I remember learning that as a kid. I just never memorized it. Okay. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Welcome to episode 1 of Rewatch with Sam and Matt. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
We are here about to embark on a perilous journey to head back to the island. Well, for me, I'm heading back. For Sam, he's heading for the first time. But we are rewatching Lost. I've seen it before. I've seen it twice. I watched Lost as it aired live. I rewatched it after it ended, and I had all the DVDs. And the show, I believe, it was 10 years in May. It's been off the air for 10 years as of May.
Wow.
Now, I don't know who's listening to this, Sam. It could just be you and me. It could be other people. So if you're watching this and you are under the age of 15, there's a good chance you don't know any idea what the hell Lost is. I'd even say, what is this? I'd even say if you're under the age of 20, you might not know what Lost is. Because the show would have ended when you were 10.
Huh. Wow.
Think about that.
That's interesting.
I did a short film a couple of years ago, and I asked the kids, they're all teenagers, and I asked them if they watch Walking Dead. They looked at me like they had never even heard what that is. And I mean, this is still like, that would have been like season 5-ish of Walking Dead.
Wow.
I had stopped watching forever, but I mean, that was still a huge popular show. So I'm like, I don't know what the kids are watching. It's crazy. So think about that. If you're under the age of 20, there's a very good chance you have no idea what Lost is.
Yeah. Wow.
Man,
That's
nuts.
insane.
Because it wasn't that long ago, so it doesn't make me feel that old.
Mm-hmm.
But it really kind of shows you an interesting view at what the content is and like how much there is out there, you know, and how quickly it comes and goes.
Yeah.
So, but I digress. So here we are, episode 1. This is where I insert our theme song. Now, I honestly don't know if we have a theme song or not.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah.
I might just end up using that clip, that audio of me recreating the Lost theme song.
Wow. Lost should have a theme song.
It should, man.
Yeah.
So
you think back to like even like Next Gen has a great theme song.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like Smallville is like tops like theme song. You know, that guitar riff comes in and it's just somebody say.
Oh yeah.
Like Heck yeah, I know what I'm getting into.
But I've been thinking about this. There's a kind of safety in the theme song, you know, the fact that it's
Yeah,
always there, and especially if it's a really catchy song.
sure.
I kind of like the mysterious lostness of
Mhm.
their opening. It's not a theme song. It's just the word "lost" coming big on screen and like flying
Yeah,
into your face. And then
I'm
even
sure
the way
there's
the
a
episodes end, it doesn't just cut to black. It cuts to
yeah,
lost right there on the screen. You're like, oh my
yeah.
god. You're like, we are. Um, and I was kidding earlier about my reference as to making it up as they go. We'll talk about that as the episodes go on.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so for this episode, we watched the very first episode of Lost, the pilot, part one.
part one.
Now, if you don't know a lot about the film industry or the television industry to be specific, first episodes of televisions are called a pilot. I don't know the exact like reasoning why. I know there's like pilot programs and stuff, so it's kind of just like a test run.
Yeah,
Um, so kind of like a
like
test pilot.
test pilot. Yeah,
Yeah, like a test pilot. Mystery solved.
we
So
need a
anyway,
bell for that.
yeah, no.
Mystery solved. Ding.
So they do these pilot episodes to see how they do, see if the studios like it, and to see if audiences like it. And if
Mhm.
they do, and they want to put the money into it, then they make more. What really bunches my shorts, Sam,
Uh-oh.
is that they can't name these episodes. So as a fan of Lost, I have to say each episode has really cool like chapter titles. I'm like, okay, this is a cool name, except for the first two. It's Pilot Part 1, Pilot
Yeah,
Part 2. It's
yeah.
just like,
I mean, that's that is both true and not true. I feel like it's just because there are shows that don't have pilot as the first episode.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
there are a lot that do though. Um, it all just depends. Like, one, are they naming? Are they actually like going to the trouble of like naming each episode? Or if like they already kind of know that they're gonna get picked up, or if they're able to just go back and say like, oh hey, by the way, we want to like name our first episode, and it's like, oh yeah, sure, here you go.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's just something I don't like. It's just kind of like, yeah, you might as well just call it like chapter 1 or the beginning or something.
Especially when you're gonna pay money. So this isn't a show where like the chapter title shows up on screen.
Right.
So that's fine.
Right.
But if you're paying money to print it out, like on the little DVD booklets, on the discs, all that stuff, it's like, just rename it.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a little disclaimer out there first. If you've never watched Lost, as of right now, mid to late-ish 2020, try and watch it. The only place I think you could really watch it like good quality is Hulu. I honestly don't know what subscription I have.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get any commercials. Did you?
No.
Okay, good. All right. So I guess we got commercial free because I actually started watching it on Amazon Prime, and like 5 minutes into it, commercial, and it
What?
was jarring because there's not a commercial break. So I double checked, and it's not actually on Amazon. It's through IMDb TV. If you sign up for that, which I already was, you can watch it through Amazon.
Uh-huh.
Another thing, the quality is not great. Because I was like, oh man, okay, forget this. I'm gonna go watch the Hulu. As soon as the episode started on Hulu, HD, crystal clear. I was like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, boo review to Amazon Prime Lost, but hella thumbs up to the Hulu version because it's crystal clear, the audio's good, no commercials. However, Amazon Prime has something called X-Ray. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
It's their trivia. So when you
Okay.
pause it, trivia pops up.
Oh my goodness.
Or you could just hit view all and you'll see all the trivia. So I got a lot of cool Lost facts after this episode from Amazon Prime. So I'll just, instead of 2 thumbs down for Amazon Prime, I'll just give 1 thumbs down. But there's a lot of Lost trivia that I thought was pretty awesome. So essentially, what this story is about a group of survivors, roughly 48, which is a number to keep in mind. Roughly 48 survivors survived the crash landing of Oceanic Flight 815, September 22nd, 2004. I'll never forget this.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, they crash on this island, and it's a story of survival. You know, we have to figure out how we're going to eat, how we're going to get our water. Are we going to get rescued? And then, of course, things start happening, and you start realizing this isn't a typical kind of castaway rescue story, because there's something different about this island, something odd and strange. So when the show came out, nobody knew what the hell this was. Everyone knew it was some kind of weird Twilight Zone-ish type thing, because that's what the trailer showed us. We knew going in that there was something wrong on this island, and that's what they used to kind of bring people in. But there wasn't a lot of science fiction, fantasy stuff on air, so I think a lot of people were expecting like horror maybe from this.
Okay.
That's
not what I was thinking originally. I thought it was going to be more of like I thought it was going to be like a modern retelling of like the Lost World, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point too. I guess that's what's that, science fiction for sure.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
See that's a good point. I didn't know what I was getting into when I first watched this. In fact, like I wasn't going to watch it. It was after something that Mom was watching, and I just started watching. I was like, okay, watch this. And my life was changed forever.
So thank you, Mom.
Yeah, thank you, Mom, and whatever show you're watching. So this first episode is essentially just this kind of survival story of everyone like kind of meeting for the first time. You see them working together. You don't actually get a lot of names. In fact, most of the characters aren't named.
Yeah.
This episode, they're kind of working together. You kind of get your trio. You got Jack, played by Matthew Fox. At the time, he was really only famous from Party of Five. Kate, played by Evangeline Lilly, who had done almost, I think, nothing as far as acting, specifically American acting at that point. And now she's the Wasp. She's all over MCU. And then we have Dominic Monaghan, who is fresh off of Lord of the Rings fame, because this was just, less than a year after Return of the King?
Return of the King, yeah.
Lord of the Rings. So that was kind of the three that they were really promoting. That was the three that kind of took this episode, took the lead, because they break off from the rest of the group, and despite hearing crazy, scary noises in the jungle at night and trees breaking and falling, they decide to go off and find the nose section of the plane to get the transceiver.
Yeah.
Things do not go good. They make it out, but in the process, they lose the pilot. They do get they do find the transceiver, but the pilot dies. Kind of horribly. And that's essentially wraps up the whole first episode, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it was good, like 45-minute episode. So Sam, what are your thoughts? Now I know your history of Lost is very well. You only saw like 3 episodes, right? What's your history here?
So yeah, my history with Lost is that I didn't initially watch it with you or Mom, but I did hear. I mean, I was your sounding board whenever it would finish, and you were like, "Sam, this thing happened," and then you would just retell me the whole episode, and I like that, but I had never watched an episode until I don't remember. It was a couple of years ago. I was going through this phase where it's like, okay, I want to watch shows that I know I'm gonna like, but I've never watched anything with that before. So I was doing that with Buffy. I was going. I think I had actually just finished rewatching Battlestar Galactica, And then I was like, you know what? Like, I think I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to just start watching Lost. And I think by that time it had been over for maybe a year, maybe two. Um, and then yeah, so I watched the first three episodes. So both parts of the pilot, and then the third episode, Tabla Rasa, I think is the title. Yeah, and then after that, I think I got caught up in. I think I know what it was. I was also watching Buffy at the same time, and I just got hooked on that, and I was like, nope, I'm just gonna. Sorry, Lost. I'm gonna keep rewatching Buffy, and then I just never picked it back up, and yeah, that was kind of it. And I I grew up on the outside of what was happening with Lost, but everybody was still talking about it, and yeah, and then of course everybody talks about the ending, so like that part I kind of already know. I don't know how it happens, I don't know like the finer details of that, but I just kind of know like sort of the broad strokes. And yeah, so just knowing those little like pieces, it's interesting for me to kind of come in and see like, oh, okay, like episode 1, I already know some of the people that don't make it out. I know one person for sure who doesn't make it out of season 1, and it's real interesting to just see like how all of these people interact, and especially with Jack, like uh I really like that opening, with him like within the bamboo trees, and he's just kind of there looking up at the sky. He's got like a wound on his side, and I'm like, oh man, okay, this is interesting. Like, there's something that's so like iconic about just like that moment. And then of course, like right after that, he like goes to the beach, and then it's just it's the whole wreckage, and that all of that. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to just kind of see this again for the first time, because it's been so long since they've seen it. It's like I just remembered like little bits of what was happening. But yeah, so technically it was kind of like watching this for the first time.
Right. Yeah, so if you're listening to this and you have not watched at least the first episode of Lost, I don't know what you're doing here, but thanks for listening.
Yeah,
But
we appreciate it.
yeah, so the very first shot of Lost, it's Matthew Fox, his character Jack, his eye opens. You even see like the pupil open, which is awesome. And he's just lying on his back, beat up as hell in this like bamboo forest. And that's it. And then slowly you start to realize what happened. You start to see debris and all this stuff. You see a dog watching him. First thing, like as soon as that opens, even the noise of his eye opening, it's like, whoa, it's very jarring. And as soon as I start watching this episode again, I was like, yes, I'm back. And the reason is because the sound design. The sound design was so on point in this scene where he's just like walking through the forest. You hear the crunching, and you hear and the music just keeps ramping up, more and more as he starts running through, and then he gets to the beach and you hear the screaming. And then you see the crash, and you see the engine is still making the noise, and you see everyone just fleeing, running, and Jack, he's a doctor, so he has to go start helping. That whole opening is still one of the best like television opening moments in history, and just the sound design, the music, everything was just phenomenal. A huge part of the stress for that scene was Maggie Grace screaming the whole time.
Oh yeah.
You don't realize it's her until you actually see her, but because her scream is the first one you hear from far away, and in like every shot you can still hear her, like in regards to the scene, you kind of know where you're at in the wreckage depending where you hear her scream. And I'm like, it's so good. Yeah, and I was just instantly just taken back. I was like, yes, it's so good to be back in this show. It's amazing. Now, earlier I mentioned a commercial break on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Sam, did you catch where the first commercial break was in this episode?
Isn't it after it's at night? where after they hear the strange noises going on, and that's like what, like 20 20 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's after that they hear whatever's out there. They hear the trees crunching and falling. You get
Mhm.
that really super cool one shot where the
Yeah.
camera is just like moving along, where like they're standing on the wing of the plane, and it's all the main cast, like all 10 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good shot. And then it cuts to commercial break. There was more than halfway into the episode. So
Dang.
apparently, J.J. Abrams, who was we'll talk about him as we go. He
Yeah.
was brought in to direct and create this pilot with Damon Lindelof, and they really fought, and they made a special deal with ABC, saying, "Hey, we don't want any commercial breaks through this first half."
Mm.
One, because there would have been a commercial in the middle of that plane wreck.
Yeah.
That would have just broke everything.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't do that. But then after that, they stayed too. They made sure that everyone was introduced in some way or another. Even like Sawyer, the character Sawyer has no lines.
Mhm.
Um, Son has no lines. Her husband Jin does, but Locke doesn't have any lines. So we're still just introducing all these characters throughout this first episode, but they got those brief introductions done. They immediately introduced something is not right on this island by having
Mhm.
something creepy out there making a lot of noise, and then you cut to the commercial, and
Yeah.
by that point you're hooked. You're like, well, who are these people? What the hell is out there? What is that in the dark? And yeah, I just thought that was really cool. This was like groundbreaking television in 2004.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. ABC, they're like, okay, we're cool. Let's do this. Um, because at that time, there was no, all the shows on TV that were ensemble were procedurals,
Mhm.
cop shows, doctor shows. Um, there was other stuff, we mentioned The Sopranos earlier, which is older than Lost.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of stuff on HBO and Showtime, which has stood the test of time and was really good. But this was the first thing on prime time television that was like, you know what? There is no main character. There's no lead. This is kind of all their story.
Mhm.
I think the closest you could get to lead would be Jack, especially in this episode. But yeah, like this episode was something else. So
And I still kind of think it's kind of groundbreaking. It's like they're not reinventing the wheel or anything. They're not, pulling, they're not trying to do anything special.
yeah.
But I think just the fact that you're able to create this scenario where you can easily introduce a danger, and you can introduce somebody who is at least likable, or at least personable, in Jack and Kate, in that there's already a dynamic there. So you want to see where that goes. You want to see where, like, okay, like, where are these two people going to end up? It doesn't
Mhm.
even matter if you can read whatever like romantic inklings could be there. It doesn't matter if you read that or not. What's more interesting is the fact that these two people are connected by this event now, and I just want to see where they go. I want to see them get off the island. I think that's the key thing about episode 1, is that you meet all of these people and you're instantly like, cool, how are they going to get off? Like where is the rescue? Like, what's going to happen? You even have people, that's the big part of the episode, like, do we need to go get the transceiver so that we can be rescued? And I think it's so interesting how they introduce these characters in this event. I do think that, like, that long gap between commercial breaks really helped, because it introduces you to everybody. It introduces you to a dynamic that you want to see something happen. And then there's the other central mystery. It's like, okay, cool. How did they crash? How are they going to get off the island? Also, what's wrong with the island.
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, that's it. Like, so you
Mm-hmm.
you have likable characters and you have 3 mysteries, and I think that's cool. So yeah, it's not groundbreaking, but it also kind of is. It's taking the simplistic approach to just getting a hook into somebody. It's like, here you go. And say what you will about J.J. Abrams, I think he's incredible at hooks and getting people hooked into things.
That's immediately what I thought of when watching the plane wreckage scene. I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? J.J. Abrams is at his best when he's starting the story.
Yeah.
Because he's building it,
Yeah. Because he's laying the threads there, and it doesn't matter if he's going to pick up those threads later. He'll probably give it to somebody else, and I think that's fine because he's able to start off with such a bang. You're just like, wow, cool. Like, I want to see what happens next. Yeah. He does that in pretty much all of his movies. So it's like, yeah, like I think that's, yeah.
And he gets a lot of credit for this show, which I agree with to a certain extent. I think he did an amazing job with the pilot. He had a say in a lot of ideas of where it was going, but it was really Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse who had to figure out the mystery.
Right.
And we'll get into them as the episodes go on, because these first 2 episodes, they're the pilot, and a lot of things changed kind of behind the scenes after that pilot was made. Okay. So I think it'll be interesting to talk about that once we get past these first 2. Mm-hmm. Speaking of JJ, as he's directing this, he specifically wanted the plane wreckage to not have any red in it because he didn't want people to be too desensitized by gore or anything. So the most red we see is when they move the wreckage and the guy's leg is bloody.
Mm-hmm.
That was what it was saving it for. And it's like, ooh, okay. And then, of course, later as the episode goes on, too, when we see the pilot at the end, you see the blood get splashed on the cockpit window. You're like, oh, God. Yeah, that's why there's not a lot of red and nobody's wearing red.
Wow, that makes a lot of
interesting.
Sense. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Poor Greg Grunberg? I'm sorry, Greg, but the guy who played the pilot, man, he was so good, and he just looks like a dad,
Yeah.
He's this really friendly looking face. He's kind of a little chubby, but he just looks so friendly. And you're like, you know what? I'm glad this guy's our pilot. I'm glad he's alive. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
The first to go.
Yeah.
So, which, interesting enough, and this is something we can discuss. Originally, Jack was supposed to die in this episode.
I remember that.
Instead of the pilot getting killed, it's Jack.
Yeah.
The thinking was we want to bring everyone in, give them this protagonist, and then pull the rug from under them and kill them at the end of the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people, they have given the script to friends and colleagues, and a lot of people said, yeah, we don't like that. They're like, we don't like Jack. Jack's me. That's who I want to be. And a lot of people didn't like it.
Interesting.
So, and
if they had done that, they would have pulled a fast one out of Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
Wait a whole season to kill your favorite lead character. It's like, nah, we did it in the first episode.
Especially because Michael Keaton was supposed to play Jack.
Yeah.
But he said no after he found out because they want Jack to stay on the show. Keaton was down to do the first episode, but he didn't want to do a full series. It's like, oh, damn, that would have been cool.
That would have been so cool.
So essentially the story would have been Kate having to step up and lead everyone and figure out how to survive on this island.
Oh, man. Which
would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting. We'll see how we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This lost show. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
It might become a cultural phenomenon. Yeah. It might be something that nobody talks about ever again.
Mm-hmm. We don't, as of this point, one episode in, we don't know what that thing is out there in the forest, but it's still creepy to me. Going back and watch, I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know what the hell it is. It sounds like metal scraping against metal, and it sounds like, I don't know, what are those things in cabs or when people used to take cabs and like it charges you.
Oh
It
yeah.
does that noise. It's like
Yeah.
scraping metal and then that and then like, oh, I don't know what it is. Like I can't explain the sound of that monster beast, whatever it is, but
hmm
scary.
Very, very
Damn.
scary.
Speaking of sound design, the score for Lost is done by none other than Michael Giacchino, who now
Is
in
it
2020
Giacchino or Giacchino?
yes. So here we are in 2020, and Michael's made quite a name for himself.
Yeah.
Is he doing? He's doing the Batman, right?
Yeah, he is.
He's doing the score for the Batman. He did the Abrams verse Star Trek movies. He's done so much.
He's done The Incredibles.
Incredibles
and
is amazing.
Up and
Up.
Ratatouille.
And I think he does the best when he has something that's more like colorful, quote unquote, like that. You know, it's cartoonish, so he can just go for it. Lost is very subtle. I think it's very good music, but it's very emotional. It's fear based or it's like emotion based.
Yeah.
Fears and emotion, but you know what I mean? It's either like sad piano or inspiring piano or holy crap, something's gonna eat me. We're gonna just bang everything.
More like a
which the instruments that they use to do the score, it's the actual wreckage they filmed with. Yeah, because he wanted something that didn't sound like an orchestra. He wanted it to feel like there's a bunch of misfits scrambled around this island. That's the vibe. So they took actual pieces of the film, the plane they filmed with, and that's what they did. So when you hear the ding 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 ding, they're actually banging on little pieces of metal from the wreckage. They're using like the seats and the metal and the wing and all that stuff to do the music.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Basically, they stomped the music.
Yeah, there you go. Stomp. There you go. Oh man,
that's insane.
So, speaking of the plane, we'll get into the money in a little bit because it was super expensive to film this pilot. However, it was essentially two different sets because they actually had to fly a plane and place it on the beach, you know, for this scene. There's no CG. The only CG was like the plane or the engine exploding. Yeah. And there might have been a bit where like the plane, the wing fell, but I knew they actually dropped the wing as well. There just wasn't people under it when it happened. But they actually had to, it was within eyesight of the Hawaiian International Airport. So they had to give a disclaimer to all the flights coming in and out saying, don't worry, they're filming a TV show down there. So if you see a smoking wreckage of a plane, it's okay. So they had that. But the actual plane that they filmed the inside in, the interior and like the flashbacks, that plane was Soul Plane. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, I remember
Soul Plane. Immediately after they finished filming Soul Plane, they went to go film Lost, which I think is awesome. I was like, oh my God.
Wow. That's
Soul Plane.
Interesting. It's an interesting piece of movie history right there. TV history.
So another thing, the 2-hour pilot, the first 2 episodes, cost them $12 million to make.
Dang.
Which especially at that time was unheard of. That wasn't like most seasons of shows weren't that much.
Yeah.
So they fired, his name was Lloyd Braun. He was an ABC Entertainment chairman. He's the one who greenlighted it. He's the one who really wanted to get the show up and running. And they fired him for it. Yeah.
Wow.
$12 million to J.J. Abrams.
That sucks.
And then look what happens. Lost is probably still to this day like ABC's like highest ranking money making show. Probably. I don't know what ABC has done since then. That isn't like live TV.
I mean, no, like they've had shows, you know, you have
But like we were playing around earlier saying like these staples in culture and stuff like that. Like,
Well,
what else has ABC done that's been like really huge?
yeah. Oh, I mean, like How to Get Away with Murder was pretty
That's
huge.
pretty huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That that was big. Scandal as well.
Scandal Star Strong.
Um, Agents of Shield, I don't think ever reached the heights that they wanted, but it was consistently good,
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
it just like it delivered every season, and like I don't think it was ever, if it's a numbers game and if it's, like a cultural icon game, yeah, Agents of Shield isn't going to hold a candle to
yeah.
Lost.
So Jorge Garcia, who plays Hurley,
Mm-hmm.
he was actually, I forgot who he read for, but Hurley wasn't in the script. They basically just created the character because they love the actor so much.
Huh.
And they said, okay, well, we'll let you know. And I think he said, like, by the time he got to the parking lot, he got a call from his agent, say, hey, they made an offer. They want you in Hawaii in 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
So JJ and Damon Lindelof are like, we got to write a character, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's a whole other thing. I think episode 2 is probably going to be a lot longer because we're going to talk about basically the pilot as a whole, part 1 and 2, because that's
Sure.
the way it was made. And there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's different for these first 2 than the rest of the series. And so that's going to be kind of interesting next time.
Next time.
Yeah. But do you have any other notes or anything about this first episode?
I like the dog. I hope nothing bad happens to the dog.
Mhm.
And I'll say that every single time I see the dog until the show ends, because
Dog watch with Sam.
dog watch. Like I can't handle if something eats the dog or something happens to it. I'm gonna be real upset.
I didn't even read my notes, but I have on my notes, I want a spin-off of just the dog. Like, what's he been doing this whole time?
I know. They like I know they had like a whole like a book club for one of the, one of the characters is like, I want like a mini series. Like give me mini webisodes with the dog. What's he doing? What's his day like? What's he eating?
What's he eating out there, right? Is he vegetarian now?
I mean, he would have to be, unless
Yeah.
he's eating people. Oh God.
Well, there are a lot of dead bodies on that island.
I mean, yeah, but you still can't just. I mean, unless you're like vultures or ants or whatever, you can't just like eat. Yeah, without properly like preparing it.
Well, maybe
And
he'll
he's a
learn how
dog.
to light a fire. I don't know.
Well,
It's a weird island, Sam. Weird stuff happens.
This is true.
In fact, I think that's going to be my justifications for a lot of things on this show. Like, Sam,
I think
it's
that's
a weird island.
I think that was the writer's justifications for a lot of things about the show too.
I know.
Like, why does this happen? Well, that's a weird island.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so again, going back to that, after second episode, we're going to talk about like the behind the scenes of the pilot.
Okay.
And you're just going to figure out just how crazy insane this was. Like, to make Lost the pilot was a miracle. Like, it shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have been successful. From conception to day 1 of filming, 30 days. Think about that. $12 million show, 30 days. Like, anyone who knows anything about TV or film, you're like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
That's what Lost was. And like,
wow.
Yeah, and then we could also kind of talk about a little bit of the legacy of Lost and how I think, even though as big as it was, I think it's still an underrated series. And a lot of people, they give it a lot of crap, but I don't think they understand what they're really complaining about with this show. So that's stuff we can kind of get into as it goes on.
Matt with the hot takes. Okay, all right.
The hot takes. Is it though? I feel like it's 50-50. Like, people's feelings on Lost, it's 50-50 from what I can see as the years progressed. But yeah. So my only other note that I wrote down here that we didn't bring up was back to Evangeline Lilly. and how you said there's kind of little hints and stuff of maybe a romance, you know? I'm like, okay. So at the end of the episode, Jack's missing. They can't find him. They think he's dead, and they're like, oh, it's just the super nice pilot. Jack's still alive. Thank God. When he's explaining everything that's happening, dude, Evangeline Lilly is looking at him like a snack. I was like, oh, man. Oh, man. I'm like, man, yeah. She's, yeah. She knows who Jack is.
There's a reason why she was screaming out for like Jack to see where he was and not Charlie.
Yeah, man. They're just like we haven't really seen too much from a lot of the characters, even from Kate, but from what you can tell from her. And like, she's a go-getter, Sam. And I'm like, man, both of them, they're just like these two like alpha characters who I'm like, oh man, just like magnets attracting, you know? I'm like, oh,
this is true.
Jeez. So I can't take it. So next time we're going to talk about episode 2, titled Pilot Part 2. In which we see Jack tend to a wounded man who reveals a secret about Kate. Ooh. So I just want to, pretty much at the end of the episode, I'm going to give a little tease to the next one. But man, I'm going through Hulu. I'm going through Amazon, the little DVD booklet. It's so hard to find little teasers for these episodes that don't have spoilers in them. And I'm like,
don't give me spoilers.
It's pissing me off. So I'm just going to start making my own.
I like this.
So episode 2,
I like that initiative.
We're going back to the island, and we're going to see more of it. And we might learn a couple more names. Any predictions after one episode?
Okay. Predictions. Time travel. The noise is coming from a giant metal dinosaur. And I want to do one more. I want one more. It's fun.
Okay, well, you say metal dinosaur just because there's something out there we don't know what it is.
Sure.
But it sounds, like I was saying, like metal.
It's like a dinosaur, yeah.
What reasons do you have for time travel?
Oh, because, I just think like any science fiction worth its salt is going to at some point deal with time travel. So yeah, time travel is probably going to be a thing. Okay, so time travel, big metal dinosaur, and group kumbaya. That's what I'm going to say. Group kumbaya. In the next episode, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to write this down. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to write down Sam's predictions, and we're going to see what comes true in the next episode.
And believe me, they will get more outlandish as we go.
Cool. So, until next time. Oh, we need a cool sign off.
Yeah. We need like an outro, yeah.
Can we just tell people to get lost?
Yeah.
But are we like kind about it, or is it like
I think it depends on like the episode, like
okay, so
like for a cool, it's kind of like, hey, like, and remember, get lost. But then like if we're very upset about what just happened, then we could be like, you know what, get lost.
So today was pretty good. First episode is really damn solid. So yes, I think we would give it let's do a friendly one for this first episode.
Yes, we can do a friendly one.
All right, everyone. You can find me at Twitter. I believe it's _Matt Jimenez. I don't know. That's not me, follow him anywhere. So. I hope he's a nice guy. But you can find me on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. I do know that one. Sam, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Sweet. Now, just saying this out, up front. This is a show about rewatching, even though the stuff is over. This show's been over for over a decade. If you want to follow us, go for it, but don't send us spoilers, especially Sam, because he hasn't
Yes.
seen this before.
Please don't
You
send me
will
spoilers.
be blocked.
Yes.
That's my block sound.
No matter
What?
how cool the spoiler is, no matter how cool you might be as a person, or how cool your username or your Twitter handle is, I will unfortunately have to block you.
Spoilers will be blocked.
Yes.
Okay. Well, until next time, Sam, we'll do it on 3. 3, 2, 1. Get lost.
Get lost.